we're going to start with looking at the documents that are responsible for making transfers of ownership possible. And some of these documents you may already be familiar with. Of course, I'm going to explain it like you've never seen one before, if that's okay with you. And therefore, maybe we can avoid any gaps in education. The document that I have up is just one example of a kind of document that goes between a buyer, a seller, also known as a grantor and a grantee, and which transferred property from one owner to a new owner. And what I'm hesitating to say here is the word person, even though in this example we have persons who are selling the property and receiving the property. Sometimes it's corporations or LLCs. So just keep that up in a shelf in your brain, because it doesn't matter whether it's going between a corporation or a person to a person and a corporation. The setup of a document remains exactly the same. The first kind of document I have begun here with our example is hopefully the one we will see the most of. This is the most effective kind of document. It's a warranty deed. And even though, yes, you can cheat up here, some of them say warranty deed real big up at the top. This one says it real small. This doesn't make it so. There are certain kind of words that have to be in the document for it to actually be a warranty deed. So we're going to go slowly over the construction of this document. Whenever I see a document after doing title for 20 years, my eyes glaze over a lot of parts of a document because I know I don't need to see them. At first, you're going to look at this document and it's going to look very busy. When I look at it with new eyes, I'm just seeing, like numbers and words everywhere, and small words and big words, and just this, all kinds of font, and there's numbers here, and what is all of that? Well, what I've highlighted is what you need to pay attention to first. I'm highlighting the important information for the kind of job you're doing. So the first thing I've highlighted is our seller's name. It could be one person, it could be 20 people. It could be one corporation or business, it could be 20. I mean, there's no limit to how many grantors there can be on a document. I have seen so many. But when we're doing residential title, mostly we're just going to see one person or a set of siblings that are selling. Why would they be doing that? Because their parents passed away and now they have title to the property. Or a husband and wife selling. And in this case, what we have is it says Mrs. Mame Sherman individually and as executrix of the estate of T.M. Sherman, deceased. So I'm pretty sure in this case, and I would definitely make sure, that Mrs. Mamie Sherman was married to T.M. Sherman until he was deceased, and she was named by a court as executrix of his estate. And that title gives her the authority to sell the interest belonging to the estate of T.M. Sherman. So one of the interesting things about community property in the state of Texas is that if you have a piece of property and you're married, that unless you make an overt claim or statement in some way while everyone is alive that that property is sole and separate property, it will be presumed by all of us to be community property. So if we know a married person is selling property all by themselves, we will presume they're only selling 50%, only their 1/2 community interest, and we will presume that the other 50% is still out there in the ether waiting to be conveyed. So that's a really important distinction. You cannot, a married person cannot sell their spouse's interest. It is theirs. And that's a great thing on one hand and can be a very inconvenient thing on another hand. And people who don't understand title can make mistakes and think that they are selling, all of the interest in a property if they don't have their spouse sign the document, but that's not true. So both spouses have to sign the document. If both spouses are not signing the document, then we need to see that a court has authorized somebody else to sign on their behalf. And we will come across a lot of instances on how sometimes people sign on behalf of other people, such as a power of attorney. All right, so in this case, the seller is selling to Zelwanda Hendrick, and her name is followed by a little Latin term. It says a femme sole, which means a single female. So we are free to assume that she is single and that there is not some husband or spouse of some sort that's going to have any community interest. So when Zelwanda is going to turn around and sell this property, we're not going to expect a husband to sign with her. All right, the next thing, so we have a grantor, we have a grantee. Here in the middle, this is called the consideration clause, and we don't pay this much attention. It is a vital part of a document, but I've really not seen a document where this is not here. She did not sell this for $10, all right? It's just a vital part of the document. The amount that Zelwanda might have paid for it is nobody's business, and so it's not put a public record. The only time a dollar amount is put a public record is when it's on a deed of trust, and I'll show you that example. So here it says it was cash in hand paid. That means there's no mortgage and there's no deed of trust. So she's paid in full. Here's the next very important part of this document. This is called the conveyance language. The sellers have granted, sold, and conveyed, and by these presents do grant, sell, and convey unto the buyer all that, and here comes our legal description, all that certain lot, tract, or parcel of land lying in Cherokee County, state of Texas, being situated in the town of Rusk, Cherokee County, Texas, and being part of Lot 2 in Block 28 as shown and designated on the plat and plan of said town, and more particularly described by metes and bounds as follows. So metes and bounds right here is a way of referring to this kind of description where it says beginning at the northeast corner of said Block 28, thence south 150 feet, thence west 75 feet, thence north 150 feet, thence east 75 feet to the place of beginning. And so this happens to be a very simple metes and bounds. You could basically draw this on a piece of paper if you were so inclined. It is a lot that is 75 feet wide and 150 feet deep, and it therefore makes a rectangle. So our metes and bounds descriptions don't get any simpler than this right here. And what's interesting is right here at the end, it says, and being the same land described in a deed from Mrs. Ola Norman to Mrs. Mame Sherman of record in 288-491. So now we know if we need to continue our chain backwards, this is the next document we go to, because this is how Mrs. Mame Sherman received title to this property. And we would go get that document and pull it up, and in fact I have it right here. I've already pulled it up. Do I even have the right one? I highlighted the wrong part of this document, but my point of highlighting this document was just to do grantor, grantee again, because it's set up differently. As documents get older, their standard way of getting set up is different. So you see how the beginning of this deed looks really different than the beginning of this deed. And that's because we're going backwards in time. And the style of deeds changes over the years. So we still have a grantor, we have a grantee. Here's our here's our granting clause, grant, sell, and convey. Here's our legal description. Let me just continue to scroll down. And the same as in the prior document, we have warrant and forever defend. So let me find it in this document. We didn't go that far down. Warrant and forever defend. This is where we get warranty deed from. So warrant means guarantee. So what that's saying is I guarantee to you that I have title to this property and I will forever defend it. They're also binding their heirs to defend it. So that if this title ever fails, it may come back to the seller and their guarantee right here that they had title to the property. Well, the person they got it from, they also guaranteed the property. And going backwards, we would probably see that everybody guaranteed that they had title to the property. And this one has a very, like a more expanded warranty clause. It starts here. This is where the warranty clause starts, and it comes down to here. So it says to have and to hold. It sounds like a marriage vow, doesn't it? To have and to hold the above described premises together with all and singular the rights and appurtenances thereto. That means all the stuff on it, like a house or an outbuilding or a well that's been drilled, in any wise belonging unto the seller, his heirs and assigns forever. And I do hereby bind myself, my heirs, executors, and administrators to warrant and defend and forever defend all in singular the said premises unto the buyer. I might have said that wrong a minute ago. And if I come down here, this is the document where it was actually where Mrs. Mamie Sherman got it. You notice how there's two documents on this one page? This is a really good lesson here. They don't do this anymore. They don't start the next document at the bottom of a page of a prior document, but they used to do it all the time. And so sometimes you will have two documents starts on a single page. And you'll just have to scroll down till you find it where it makes sense. And so here, Mrs. Ola Norman, she individually and as community administratrix of the estate of W.T. Norman, deceased, she sells to Mrs. Mamie Sherman, paid for by Mrs. Mamie Sherman out of her own separate funds. This right here shows that this was Mrs. Mamie Sherman's sole and separate property. But as you can see, when she went to sell it, she still, out of probably an abundance of caution, sold as an executrix any interest her husband would have had in the property. Unto the said Mrs. Mamie Sherman for her own separate use and benefit. Blah, blah, blah. Lot 2 in block number 28. And then it goes to give the same description. Beginning at the northeast corner of said block number 28, thence south 150 feet, thence west 75 feet, thence north 150 feet, and thence east 75 feet, and so on. And then you can see. This is our signature area. And I can explain another time why you'll not see any signatures. These are not original documents. That's why. These are hand-typed copies by the clerk. All right. This is an actual copy. Back to Mamie's deed.